All right, this is a heavy-duty desktop or countertop citrus squeezer, juicer, or nut crusher. It is stainless steel, and they sent this to me to review for free. If you wanted to buy one, it would cost you about $160. They haven't paid me for my review, and my opinions remain my own. So in the package, underneath a piece of foam, we have the various pieces here. It comes disassembled, so you will have to assemble it. And they have a stainless steel base. It has some, I'm not sure if they're exactly suction cups, but definitely like rubber feet. And it also has kind of a neat little laser engraved round pattern, like I'm assuming that's where the press goes down. In addition to the base, we have the main body here. And this body has 4 screw holes in there. This piece here looks like it's pretty much pre-assembled with the exception of the handle is not on it. The motion is pretty smooth there. I don't think they have any actual bearings, but the pipes fit nicely together. There's the cup, which is the crushing cup. It says 304, indicating 304 stainless steel, and that fits in there. And then we have a screwdriver included. We have a little wrench, and we have the 4 screws to mount this to the bottom there. And we also have this guy, which is presumably the handle for pushing down. And there's a little card in there as well. So what I don't see in here is any type of instructions. Now, it shouldn't be too complicated because there's 4 holes, 4 screws, 4 screw holes, and there's a little bolt down there, and you come with a wrench and a screwdriver. So I think I can figure this out in the assembly procedure. So my assumption is that this plate will go over those 4 screw holes. Now, to do that, I'm going to put these screws into these holes. They're chamfered so they fit flush. And I'm going to use the plate to kind of hold the screws while I try to get them in the right spot, because you really need 3 hands. 1 to hold this base thing, and then 1 to hold the top thing, and 1 to screw things in. So I'm just going to see if I can get some screws in place and hopefully get a screw in the appropriate hole. All right, I got 1 screw in place. The other screws haven't gone flying. They look like they're lined up on those holes pretty well. So my assumption here is if I get 2 screws in, the other 2 should be pretty well lined up. I'm not going to tighten them all the way until I get them in. Yeah, those holes are nicely lining up, so the machining between the base plate and the upright worked very nicely. I didn't really have to wiggle things around much. All 4 holes appear to be exactly on. Now I'm going to tighten these screws up a bit. You might want a heftier, bigger screwdriver to really get these guys tight, or potentially a little bit of thread locker so they don't come back out. But for now, that seems to be on there pretty well. And then it's just a matter of getting this handle on, and I'm assuming it goes through this hole right here. So this feels like aluminum as opposed to stainless steel. It might just be stainless steel with a burnished coat. Now there's a couple of washers here. There's a washer and a lock washer. I'm going to put both of these on the inside here, and then we'll put this handle arm out here. And I'm just turning this by hand, essentially, at least for now. So there's no way to keep this guy from rotating other than just holding onto it. But this wrench fits in there pretty well. So there, we have it assembled. So this guy goes under there, goes down. There's a decent amount of space between the bottom of this guy and this guy here. So it moves up and down. And the bottom of this guy does have lots of pointy things for crushing nuts and so forth. But because there's a bit of a gap there, I don't think you're going to crush anything smaller than kind of the gap between this guy and that guy. And so when this is all the way down, the gap there is probably at least a 1/4 inch, not quite 1/2 inch, but at least a 1/4 inch. So nothing's going to get really smaller than that. So I think this might be better for juicing citrus than getting nuts super, super small, but it would certainly take large nuts down into small sections of nuts. All right, assembly was very straightforward. This guy here is stainless steel. It's polished, and so I'm already getting fingerprints all over this sucker. The rubber pads are not suction cups. They just kind of protect your countertop, and they make it so it's not going to move around easily. This handle feels a little bit small in my hand. I'd worried that maybe if I was crushing a whole bunch of things, the pressure on the edge of my hand here might make it start to cramp a little bit. I'd like it to be more bicycle handle size. Might be possible you could buy like a rubber thing that would go around the outside and make it a little bit grippier. But it's, I'd say maybe 3/4 inch diameter maximum, maybe closer to 1/2 inch there. Now this cup, there's a little bit of gap left to right and up to down, so there'll be room for things to get smushed in it. I'm planning on using this primarily for citrus juicing, so I would have really preferred to have a little pour notch on the side of this cup to pour some juice out. It may not be an issue in actual use. It's a relatively small diameter cup, so as long as they're not putting into a tiny little nozzle, it might pour just fine. But I would have kind of liked to have a tiny little notch for pouring on that guy. All right, measurement-wise, this handle is 0.71, maybe 0.7 inches. Yeah, 0.7 inches, so it's just a little less than 3/4 inch. The cup is just about exactly 3 inches diameter. The smashing piston here is 2.75 inches in diameter. Now, the gap between the bottom of these points and the bottom of this cup here, my best estimates at measuring that is about 1/3 inch. So it's, not super big, but there is a little gap in the bottom there. Now I just noticed there's a little bit of string, like maybe glue adhesive, on the one of these faces of these little bar pieces. I thought initially it was a scratch, but it's not a scratch. I think it might be like there was protective plastic over it and somebody pulled the protective plastic off, but there's a little bit of adhesive left on. So I'm able to just wipe that off with a finger. I think if you got a scrubby pad in there, you could just scrub all that adhesive off. All right, so counter space wise, the base here is about 8 inches by 7 inches, but this handle sticks out the front a good another 5 inches or so. So I'd say total space from the front of the handle to the back is about 14 inches. Height-wise, this guy here is 16 or just 15.5 inches when it's down. If you go up, obviously the handle's going to take up a little more space up there, so you're going to need a little bit of overhead space. You need 24 inches to lift the handle all the way up. So it's not small, it's not super large either. It doesn't take up too much visual space because it's kind of, a couple of pillars going up. It's not like it's a giant block. But if you want to take it apart to store it, you're going to have to take out those 4 screws and potentially take off the handle as well. So it's not a difficult procedure to take it apart and put it back together, but it's not just like it snaps apart and snaps back together. You have to get a couple of tools out to do that. They do provide the tools that you need for it, but it's not just pop it apart and put it back together. So my suspicion here is most people are going to store it as a single piece and not bother taking it apart again. All right, the entire unit with the cups weighs in at almost 6 pounds. It's 5 pounds, 13 to 14 ounces. It's, not difficult to carry around with one hand. It's hefty, it's there, but it's not difficult to carry with one hand. The claim is this is all stainless steel. I am not getting much of a magnetic pull from most of the hardware, so all of the metal parts are definitely stainless steel. This guy here, the cup, it sticks to the cup, but not very hard. So I do think it is a type of stainless. I'm not sure it's 304 stainless or not, but it's not sticking as hard as I would expect this magnet to stick to things. You know, a lot of the hardware it will kind of almost stick to, but it's not snapping to it. So I'm pretty confident in saying that most of this is stainless steel hardware. The one possible exception here is these bolts holding on the feet. They snap really hard, and so it's possible the screws holding the little rubber feet on are not stainless steel. They might just be zinc coated hardware, so it's potentially possible if you're doing a lot of citrus juice you might get some rust on those screws there. I don't know for certain on that. So as far as expensive as this guy was, I feel like they should have included a second one of these, just a little bit thicker, that was a solid flat bottom in addition to the pointy bottom one. Okay. Let's give this guy a try with just a solid orange. I was lucky enough to get oranges that would fit in this cup. So pushing down, it wants to tilt forward a little bit, but we are definitely squishing some juice out of there. So yeah, I think this guy could benefit from sticking out farther out the front, so it doesn't want to do that type of sliding, because I'm definitely having it kind of slide around. But I see a lot of juice in there, along with a very flat orange, so let me pour that out. Well, I thought a lot of juice was in there. We go, it's kind of under the bottom. So I don't think that was fully effective without this guy being cut beforehand. Also, these are not exactly the right types of orange to be juiced. Now that felt much juicier. Now we still do have the orange left in the container, so you have to kind of separate the juice from the orange. Oof, that splurted everywhere. Alright, so I'm definitely smashing things with this guy. I'm not certain how effective as a juicer it is, because that's all the juice I've gotten so far. Alright, so let me just kind of squeeze these by hand. I'm not really getting a lot more juice out of these guys. This one got a little more out of it. So really, these are not the correct types of oranges to be juiced. So that's partially my problem here. But it definitely did smash them down quite a bit. However, it left a decent amount of mess on my counter. So I feel like there's as much juice left on this guy and around there and kind of on the counter as I poured off into this cup. Right, from a cleanup perspective, this bottom bit unscrews, so you can take that bit off and wash it. The rest of it you pretty much just have to wipe down in place unless you have a really big dishwasher. But it is stainless steel, so it's pretty easy to wipe it down. So I really got this thing to juice key limes. Unfortunately, they're not in season right now, so I can't test it on key limes. It smashes these oranges just fine. I didn't get a lot of juice out. I suspect a more traditional citrus juicer with kind of the spinning thing that you hold the thing down on might work a little better. It definitely crushes stuff. However, if you put a lot of force down here, it kind of starts to tilt up that way because you're pushing down out here, but this guy doesn't extend out there, and so it kind of torques it around this way. So I feel like it could use more extension here to have the lever arm better, or maybe actual suction cups in the back or front that might help, or even a handle on the top that you could push and hold against, because I was basically just holding onto this thing to get the leverage to smash things.